Howdy peeps, good afternoon people. All right, let's see what there is to talk about today. This might be a long video people. I think there's going to be quite a few different talking points. Don't forget, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, and whilst you're there, you might as well like and share the vids. You know what I haven't spoken about? I've not even done scores on the doors, and that's for the Josh Kelly card coming up at the weekend. Let's quickly do scores on the doors for that fight card. Obviously headlined by Avanesiyan versus Josh Kelly. Let's have a quick look at the actual fight card itself. All right, so obviously main event, Avanesyan versus Josh Kelly for the European welterweight strap. Avanesyan, obviously a lot more experienced. I remember his fights against the likes of Lamont Peterson. Lost that fight, but decent scrap. Shane Mosley, obviously a faded Shane Mosley, beat Shane Mosley in I think 2015 or 16. So this is a step up for Josh Kelly. There's no two ways about it. Josh Kelly's only had 11 fights. One of those was a draw, which didn't go down too well with the public. I remember everyone thought he was hanging on towards the end of that fight. I like him because he's a bit different, Josh Kelly, very unorthodox. A lot of Adam Booth fighters are, to be fair. But this is a test. This is an acid test. I don't think, like a lot of people have seen people say, is Josh Kelly world level? And if he beats Avanesyan, he is. I don't know if it works like that. I don't think of Avanesyan as world level. European level, yeah, obviously European champion, but not world level. Avanesyan lost, by the way, to Kavialaskas. You might remember the name. That's the guy that fought Terence Crawford. So you know kind of where Avanesyan is. So he's not world level. So if Josh Kelly beats him, he's not world level. Josh Kelly, if he beats him, is European champion, European level. But I would favour Avanesyan over Josh Kelly in this one. But, I mean, I hope, for the sake of British boxing, that Josh Kelly wins, because not only do I think British boxing needs a bit of a boost right now, but just because I do want to see Josh Kelly versus Conor Benn, if Conor Benn gets past Vargas, which is no gimme. So yeah, that's Avanesyan versus Kelly, obviously the main event. Robbie Davis Jr. versus Valenzuela. Valenzuela. Another Mexican, Jesus Christ. Jordan Gill's on the card. Always like to see Jordan Gill. He takes on Cesar Juarez, another Mexican. Florian Marcoux versus Ryan Charlton. That's a good fight. And I think this has just been added. Johnny Fisher sees debut. He takes on Matt Gordon, heavyweight. Always good to see new heavyweights come up. That's a good card. I mean, I don't know anything about these Mexicans. I'm not going to pretend I do. But I know what Jordan Gill brings to the table, and I know what Robbie Davis Jr. brings to the table, and they bring action. And I think they're going to be going head to head with guys that bring action as well. So that's solid. Look, I just like the card, and I'm probably going to give this a high score just because I like Avanesyan versus Kelly. I think it's a great main event. And I also like Florian Marcoux, Ryland Charlton. I love that as well. So for me, it's a solid 7. I mean, it's a good Saturday night watch. I might do a live stream of this. You know what? We're going to do a live stream. We're going to do a live stream watch along. I ain't messing about. I mean, I missed out on it last week and look what happened. So we're going to do a live stream of this, and we're probably going to start. We might do the whole bloody card. Yeah, we might do that. I'll let you guys know. So yeah, I think a 7, but yeah, I like this fight card. I think a few action-packed fights there. I don't think any of these are going to be stinkers. And that's kind of what we want from boxing, isn't it? You guys would have all, by now, I'm guessing, seen Deontay Wilder's interview. Yeah, look, Deontay Wilder's an interesting character, isn't he? But a couple of things he said on the interview. Firstly, he said he would like to fight Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua, and obviously Tyson Fury. So those are the fights that he wants. He spoke about his best knockouts, which is what's obviously caused a bit of a stir here. And in his best knockouts, he picked Bermane Stiverne, which was, Bermane Stiverne's legs went backwards. Bermane Stiverne, Spilka, which was a brutal knockout. Literally, Spilka turned in midair. And Tyson Fury, which I think is interesting. He said, and I'm going to read out his quotes here so I don't misquote him, "I definitely knocked him out. The referee was Jack Reese, and if you go back and look at any of his fights, he stops a lot of his fights early, which is true. I have done that. Sometimes they don't even get up and he's waving it off." Another true point. When I knocked Fury out, I literally seen it with my own self. That's one of the reasons I was so surprised. Remember the reaction of Wilder, like when Fury got up. He was like, what is going on? Not only with the count, but I see this man's eyes rolled back into his head. Now, that's how this shit was. I see his veins popping out of his head and I knew he had a concussion. He was gone. That's a waved off fight, period. There's a couple of things with this. Firstly, he's right about the ref, by the way. I've gone back and seen a couple of his fights. He does wave the fight off pretty sharpish. When Fury hit the canvas, let's be honest, I don't think anyone would have begrudged the ref if the ref immediately went, boom, fight off. Now, that doesn't mean you knocked him out, but I think anyone would have said, boom. Was the count slow? The count might have been a bit slow. I guess it depends what camp you're in. Like, I mean, I've watched Mike Tyson versus Buster Douglas thousands of times. And when Mike Tyson put Buster Douglas down, I'm convinced it was a slow count. Convinced. Mike Tyson won that fight as far as I'm concerned. And I think that was even a lot of the rhetoric after. Like Mike Tyson won, he got robbed. So don't act like what Wilder's doing hasn't been done before. A lot of people have done the same thing with Mike Tyson. Even though Mike Tyson went on to get knocked out in that fight, everyone said, well, it doesn't matter because he won the fight earlier. So what Deontay Wilder's doing is quite similar to that. So look, I understand a bit of what Wilder's saying. The count might have been a bit slow. I've seen some people say it was 13.5 seconds, you know, those boffins that time it, and the fight could have been waved off. None of those things happened. Tyson got up and the fight was a draw. I actually thought Tyson won it on the scorecards. What I find more intriguing is that Mike Tyson, Deontay Wilder simply just does, it's almost like, I might have missed it. I don't see any credit given to Tyson Fury. Like nothing. Like I've never seen someone like make all the excuses that he's making. Like now, so we're not even talking about the second fight where we heard all those excuses. Now we're going back to the first one. Was even more excuses. In total, I think we're at number 10 for excuses across both fights now. Rather than just saying, you know what, Mike Tyson. Tyson Fury, great fighter. Can't wait to do it again. I learned a lot from both. I maybe underestimated him in the first fight, which I think we all did. That kind of talk. But the talk has always been about, now it's the referee. It was Breland. It was Tyson having something in his glove. It's a lot. It's a lot from Deontay Wilder. But again, I kind of understand what he means by him thinking he won the fight because, again, I was old enough to remember what people were saying after the Mike Tyson loss. Yes, it was the biggest upset in boxing, but a lot of people said Mike Tyson should have won that fight because the ref counted slow. It was a slow count, which it was at the time. It was. All right, let's get to some news here. I did say this could be a long video. It really could, people. Obviously, Carl Frampton versus Jamel Herring is off. Well, I say off, being postponed. Carl Frampton has, I think it's a wrist injury or something like that, a hand injury of some sort. Disappointing, if I'm honest with you. This fight was supposed to take place, on the 27th? It's very disappointing for Herring, and I'll say why. Look, it's disappointing for both, but I've always said that Herring, I don't know what he walks around at, but he's a massive man to get down to 130 pounds. So he would have been cutting a lot of weight. Like right now, a couple of weeks out, he's probably at around 140, maybe 142, 143 from wherever he started. He now has to kind of rehydrate again and then cut weight again. Do you know what I mean? Unless he just kind of stays where he is, which wouldn't be healthy. So he's going to have to obviously rehydrate back to 155, 160, and then go again, depending upon when the fight is. So that's difficult. Whereas obviously Carl Frampton's moving up in weight. So it's still going to be difficult for Carl, because Carl's fixed it to make 130, but it's definitely going to be a lot harder for Jamel Herring. So yeah, look, disappointed. But the good thing is the fight isn't off. It's just being rescheduled. So I'm guessing it's going to be rescheduled for end of March, early April, around that time. But yeah, disappointing for Herring, disappointing for Carl. The fight's been off a couple of times now, so hopefully it's third time lucky. I bet here about Jake Paul, which we're not going to read because we don't do that kind of stuff here. Terence Crawford prefers facing Manny Pacquiao over Sean Porter. Of course he does. Makes way more sense to fight Manny Pacquiao. I don't know if that fight's even happening. I don't know what's going on with Manny Pacquiao right now. Does anyone know what's going on with Manny Pacquiao? Obviously, he spoke about, obviously it was supposed to be Conor. Seems like it might be Ryan. I ain't got a clue. I'd rather right now it be Mikey. If I'm honest with you, Mikey Garcia right now would be okay for me. Demetrius Andrade, not impressed. Canelo is not pound for pound best. How can you not be impressed with Canelo? That means I am fully not impressed with anything you've done. And I'm a fan. But if you're not impressed with Canelo, then I can't be impressed with you, because your resume is for a two-weight world champion, an unbeaten two-weight world champion. I'm sure he's world championship gold medalist as an amateur as well. I can't remember. I think he is. I mean, his biggest win on that resume, Vans, probably. I mean, come on, man. You've got to be impressed. Even if you dislike Canelo, right? Even if you're like, oh, you're anti because of him maybe taking fighters at the end, or maybe the Clenbuterol stuff, you've got to be impressed with what Canelo has done. There is no one else you can chuck at me that's even close to being a pound for pound number one. No one. Not Crawford, not Inoue, not Estrada, not Usyk, no one. He's pound for pound number one by a stretch. Not just because of the resume, but because of the activity as well that we're hoping to get soon, right? I mean, well, we know we're getting something. Like already, even if he was to stop now, he's done a lot more than most fighters would do this year in the last 12 months anyway. Like already, right? Callum Smith yielded him. Just stop there. And he's already done way more than most. But he's going to do Billy Joe. He's going to do a September fight, he's saying, and he's going to do a December fight. If that doesn't impress you, then you know where to go, my man. Conor Ben, I back Kelly, but I believe Avanesian might be too much. Yeah, that's kind of my thinking as well. But look, we'll see. Again, for British boxing, Kelly needs to win. And that's true. For British boxing, Kelly needs to win. I mean, you think of what's happened of recent. Like even Kell Brook, I know Crawford was the man, right? I get it, but that performance, like the way in which Kell got stopped, hurts British boxing. Luke Campbell hurts British boxing just because I thought Ryan was there for the taking. Callum Smith, unbeaten, world champion, 168. A guy coming up to your weight class kind of hurts you a little bit. Although he's fought 175 Canelo, but you know, he's naturally the smaller guy. It hurts you the way in which you never won a round. Josh Warrington, unbeaten. Yes, not a champion, but you know, pretty much a champion, right? The way he got beat hurts British boxing. Like the Americans are laughing at us. We need someone to do something. Hopefully Josh Kelly can do something. What's this one? Eddie Hearn. I didn't think Fury would get to this level, but Joshua will beat him. I am so with Eddie Hearn here, because I didn't think Fury would get to this level either. I remember when I watched Fury against John McDermott. I'm trying to just find out when. I think it was. Is it this? Yeah, when I watched him against John McDermott, 2009. By the way, McDermott won that fight. Didn't think anything of Fury. I was like, okay. I know that was early in his career, but I was like, you know, who's this kind of flash? And I remember he got put down by a couple of people. It might have been either Nikolai Thurfight, maybe not, or Pagic. Someone put him down. And I was like, he ain't going to be that guy. He ain't going to be that guy. Even a performance against Cunningham. I was like, he beat Cunningham just based on size. It wasn't the fleet-footed Fury we're seeing now. It wasn't. Remember, he kind of held Cunningham's face down and it was just based on size. This Fury now, I'll tell you when I knew Fury was very good. When he stopped Chisora, 2014. That's when I was like, okay, he put a beating on Chisora. And I was like, all right, this is interesting. And obviously he's gone on to do a lot better. But my thing with him is for him to... he's 32 now. I just hope he stays consistent, and for the next 4 or 5 years, we actually see a run from Tyson Fury, because that's the only thing that makes me... Because when I look at his resume, yes, he's got those 2 wins against Klitschko and Wilder, but for me, it's thin based on how good he is. It should be stacked, his resume. It's activity that might be his problem. Activity. We'll see. As for the bit that Eddie Hearn says about, I think Joshua will beat him. Well, he's got to say that, really, isn't he? He's promoter. He can't say, I think Joshua's going to lose. What else we got? Sorry, I didn't read that correctly, Addy. Hrgovic's promoter hopes Martin Bakole accepts offer to fight. Bakole should see that coming, literally see that coming and go whoop, that way. Can you see that? So that's the contract. That's Hrgovic. Bakole should go, swerve him like the plague. There's no way Bakole's ego might say yes. Bakole's management should say no. I watched Bakole Kuzman. I wasn't that impressed. I have to admit, I wasn't super impressed with him. He's not ready for a Hrgovic. Look, I'm one for always saying these fights should always mix with each other, but I wasn't talking about Bakole. Hrgovic's the top 20 guy for me. Bakole's just out of that. No, not yet. Bakole should have a couple more fights and then we'll see if he's ready for a Hrgovic. I mean, Hrgovic really is on that level of, you could put Hrgovic with anyone in the top 10. Hrgovic has given him some sort of problems. He's beaten a lot of them. He would beat Bakole, and I think quite comfortably as well. There's no disrespect to Bakole. I think Bakole's going to go on to do good things, but not ready for Hrgovic yet. No chance. No chance. Devin Haney. All right, this isn't even there, but there is talk about Devin Haney versus Jorge Linares, which I think is a good match. I have no problem with that at all, by the way. I think it's a good step up for Haney when you think of people he's been fighting recently. I don't know how sharp Jorge Linares still is, but he will give Haney some work for a few rounds. I think that's a good matchup. He should take that. Haney here talking about Ryan Garcia, saying Pacquiao fight doesn't make sense for Ryan Garcia. Not very winnable. Makes sense. It makes a hell of a lot of sense. There is no fight between 135 and 154 that's turning down a fight with Pacquiao. Didn't you just see what Terence said about he wants the Pacquiao fight over Sean Porter? You take the fight. Win or lose, you get a chance to fight Manny Pacquiao, you take it. Just that what it is. You get a chance to make A, great money, and B, fight a legend. You take it. I don't think it makes sense for Manny Pacquiao, but it makes a lot of sense for Ryan Garcia. What else we got here? Kiko Martinez fuming over scores. Do you have to kill someone to win? I mean, he won, but calm down, Kiko. It wasn't, wasn't the biggest robbery in the world. He won the fight. I gave the fight to Kiko by a round. So we're not, I think the scores were awful, 118, 111, but I think Kiko will think that he won that by 5 or 6. He didn't. He won it by a round, maybe 2. That's all it was. There should be a rematch, and I think there will be. Mark Tibbs, confident he can raise the game of Daniel Dubois. Should be able to. Look, I've always had this thing. For me, it's always been a case of, like, if you're when you're young coming through, say you're a Southern area level fighter, there's no doubt you're going to have a Southern area level trainer, unless you are a superstar from the amateurs, right? Olympic gold. Then you'll get a higher level trainer. But if you're just coming through and you're coming through without no glitz or glamour, you're going to have a Southern. Now, if you then go to British and European level, the hope is that your trainer kind of goes there with you. But most times, you still got a Southern area level trainer. Does that make any sense? So most times you're going to have to go and find a trainer from elsewhere that is a bit better than that. I think Mark Tibbs is a European level trainer. That's not being disrespectful. I just think that's what he is. So I think he can get Daniel Dubois to that European level stand. Now, if Daniel Dubois then goes again and becomes a world level, maybe he might have to reassess and think, okay, I need a world level type trainer. And maybe that's kind of what Dylan White's done. Obviously, Dylan White was with Tibbs. Maybe he's thought, I need to go a bit better than that. So I do think he can get Dubois to European level. It's then what happens after that. But I think for now, it's a good matchup because I think Dubois needs someone. If Dubois is going out there fighting European level caliber fighters, and he is European level, and I think Dubois is, he definitely needs someone to match him up like that. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Canelo on Golovkin trilogy, everything is possible. I don't think there's much interest for it anymore. I think there are better options out there. If he wants to go out, this is Canelo, by the way, and clean up at 168, then obviously it's Caleb Plant's out there after Billy Joe. And then he's talking about maybe having a fight in December, and that will be against a lower ranked guy. That's kind of how he does it, right? We've seen Yildirim, we've seen Rocky Fielding. That's kind of what he does now. So I don't see how the Golovkin fight happens. But the longer it takes, Golovkin's going to get 38, 39. I actually don't see that fight happening. The only way it happens is if Golovkin goes up, fights Caleb Plant, takes that belt, ain't easy, then all the marbles with Canelo. Yeah, that's the only way it happens. All right, a couple more bits here, peeps. Joseph Parker wants statement win, vows to knock Junior Far out, needs statement win. Needs a statement win so then they can then start the sell for Chisora, Joseph Parker. And no doubt they'll start to sell that on a pay-per-view. Last bit here, Canelo sees another 6 to 7 years left in career, rules out foes at 175 pounds. Yeah. There's too many fights out there for him now to even think of going to 175. Too many guys from 160, 168. There's too many guys that could come up from 154. There are a few big guys from 154 that could come up. There's guys right now that are 11-0 and 10-0 that we don't even know that in 6 years' time are going to be 21-0, 22-0, and they might be legit contenders at the time. Plus, there could be rematches and trilogy fights. So, look, there's a lot for him at 160 and 168. And if he wants to kind of end his career doing something crazy and going to 175 again, or some people are saying even higher, then he'll do that. But for now, there's so much money to be made at 160, 168. And like I said, some of the guys coming up at 154, everyone is chasing Canelo. Everyone. There's literally 15 fighters you could name at 154, 160, and 168 that all want Canelo money, all want the chance of beating Canelo. He's the Mayweather now of this era. You know, everyone wants him to beat him. So we'll see what happens with Canelo. We shall see. Peace and love. So again, we will be doing a live watch along. Might as well win it on Saturday, and we're going to do a live on Sunday. We are busy people. Peace and love.